Okay, so welcome back to my channel. I want to start off by apologizing for the audio. I'm not sure why my microphones aren't working. I'm not sure what the if I may have done something with the configuration, but it's just that recording right now with my microphones just isn't working. I don't know what's going on. So I'm having to use my laptop microphone. Okay, so this is going to be a quick recap of Insatiable season 1, episode 2. Skinny is magic. Okay, so Miss Regina Vagina, bitch. Okay, we're gonna get to her in a few minutes, but so it started. This is the morning of. See, this is why I can't watch more than one episode at one time because they start to run together on me. So some of the things I say in this video is going to be repetitive because I thought I only watched part of the second episode, but apparently I watched more than I thought. So when I actually recorded my first video for episode 1, I actually kind of mixed some things up and talked about some things that happened in episode 2. So I just wanted to get that. Yes, I know I may have said that in the first video. That's why. Okay. So it's the morning of. It's the first day of school, senior year. Patty wakes up to find that her mother is going to be out of town for 4 days. How the hell does your teenager find out that she's going to be out of town for 4 days? She went off to an AA convention, and she left Patty some money on the counter so she could eat, buy herself food or whatever. Okay. Another piece of the puzzle why Patty had a weight problem. Mom is... Okay. Now, do we flash to Bob Armstrong and Coralee. So, it's the morning. They're getting dressed, getting themselves to get their day started. So they're kind of talking about what happened with Magnolia. Of course, he had to tell her that he ended up going over to these people's house and ended up having to jump out the damn window. She's looking at him like, why would you even put yourself in that position? And then he goes on about Patty and how she's going to be his claim to pageant glory, right? And she's like, no, you are not. And the way that girl came into that event, she was dressed like a slut and and you need to just stay away from her. You're known around town as just a molester. Stay away from her. And so, okay, so Patty just decided since mom's out of town, she's not going to go to school that day. So she went to Bob's office and she took a box of donuts. So she walks in and she looked like she'd been giving $2 blowjobs all night. So he looks like, what the hell happened to you? And basically she was like, long night, whatever. So he's like, what are you doing here? She was like, oh, I'm not going to school today. And he looked at her and was like, okay, the last thing we need is a pageant contestant who's a high school dropout and a drunk and some other stuff, right? So he pulled out his little kid. He got a little makeup kid in his office and he got her tight, got her right, got her snatched, and he took her to school. But, they had a little conversation before he ended up dropping her off at school. So he was like, she went to reach for a donut, and he took it from her. And then she had a flashback of an episode when she was in the cafeteria at school, and she was about to eat a donut, and one of the students, I guess what we found out later in the episode was one of the popular girls, ended up taking the donut from her, saying some nasty shit to her, and eating it and walking away. And so he was like, do you want to talk about it? And she was basically like, I'm never going back there again. And so he pulled out his yearbook and showed that he also had a weight problem in high school and saw some of the nasty things that people wrote in his yearbook. And so she's now feeling like they're kindred spirits. So fast forward, he takes her to school. She walks into the school. As far as their people are concerned, they don't know that she was who they once called Fatty Patty. So they're treating her like she's a new girl in school, like she's this Miss Blonde body yaddy right now. And so of course the teenage boys are gawking and leering and laughing and making their little comments. But she makes a beeline for Brick Barnard. And while she walks up and says, hi, Brick. And so he looks at her like, hi, like, he looked at her like a stranger just walked up to him and spoke to him. Basically, that was his reaction. And then Magnolia walked up and put her arm around his, and she was like, and I think Magnolia was the one that told him this is Patty, and he was like, no, this can't be Patty, and so, I can't remember if Patty walked off or Naomi walked off, or if Magnolia kind of pulled Brick away. I think she kind of pulled Brick away, and he was, no, she, before that, Magnolia was like, just because you've lost weight don't mean you get to steal, you should be trying to steal somebody else's boyfriend. And then she pulls him away, and he's like, "Oh, so I'm your boyfriend now? Last night, or I think last week, I wasn't." He was like, "Well, just," and Magnolia, a bitch. "Just because I don't know what I want to do right now doesn't mean I want you talking to other girls." Okay, so of course Brick, like a puppy, little love struck puppy, was like, "Okay, you're okay. No girls, no girls." And so, Coralee makes her way over to Eddie Mae's house, and Barnard, he's getting ready for work. Goes, I think she went over to probably get the invitations that Eddie Mae had promised her. Like, if you buy, she said she would buy all their son's box of chocolates if they if she's able to get her these RSVPs to these, I guess, society parties. So maybe she was going to let her get that. That'd be the only reason for her to be there, right? So, but anyway, and I need to apologize for Miss Eddie Mae. I thought that she was like a housewife, who was kind of involved in kind of a housewife socialite kind of person. Miss Eddie Mae is a doctor. She's a surgeon. I didn't know. I am so sorry. So Coralee knocks on the door. Barnard opens the door. She's like, "Oh, I'm here to see Eddie Mae." He's like, "Oh, she had a surgery. She's out of town." And so he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to find a shirt. I can't find it." So she basically offered to help him, with some stuff around the house and to help him get situated until she comes back. So she goes in, irons his shirt for him, and I guess he trusts her enough to leave her in the house. So he got himself together and he left. So what do you think that heifer did? This bitch sat there and went through all that stuff. She all in Eddie Mae's closet trying on her clothes, just all it laying up in the bed, just acting a plumb fool, right? So while she's there, the doorbell rings and she looked out the window. It was Miss Vagina. She had slid an envelope under their door. So by the time Coralee got downstairs, Regina was gone. So she got the envelope and she kind of contemplated for a minute whether or not to open it, but she went on and opened it, and she saw the photos that the private investigator took of Bob Armstrong in Magnolia's room, and Magnolia was half naked. So she's like, "Oh God, okay." So she ends up storming into Bob's office and was basically like, "You're fucked." And he's like, "Oh, is this kind of an afternoon delight kind of thing?" They are so silly. They are so great. And she's like, "No," she's put the photos on the desk, like, okay. So we go back to the school. They're sitting in class, and one of the students in the class says to, basically was mentioning, "Did you guys hear about the hotel fire?" And people are like, "Well, no, what happened?" It's like, apparently some dude at the fly and trap, but I don't know the name of the I can't remember the damn hotel. Apparently he caught fire. He was set on fire, and this, that, and the third. And so of course, Patty's like, "Oh, okay," because that was the hotel she was at with the old boy, and she was about to remember last episode. She was about to set his ass on fire. And so she runs out of the classroom. Nomi runs out behind her. It's like, "What is going on? What have you done?" And she basically like, "That's my hotel. That's my guy. That, the guy was going to do that." And she's like, "Oh my God. Okay." So Nomi was like, "Okay, ride or die." She's like, "I'll go to the hospital to see what kind of information I can find out. You stay here," because Nomi's father is a cop. I don't know if he's the sheriff, but he's a police officer. And she was like, "No, when things like this happen, the police usually take note of who goes to visit the victims." And so Nomi basically was like, "I'll go to the hospital to see what's going on. You stay here." So Nomi goes to the hospital, and she's like standing outside the guy's room. Her father rounds the corner, was looking at her like, "What are you doing here?" So she starts talking to her dad, and basically after talking to her dad, she's like, "Okay, Patty could be in trouble." So at this point, we go back to the school, and it's lunchtime. And so at this point, Patty doesn't know where to sit. Her only friend is off, trying to see what she, get information on her behalf. And so she doesn't really know where to sit now, because now she's Miss Blonde Body Yachty now. So she's kind of scanning the room to see where she actually fits in now, the new her. And so the popular girls end up waving her over, like, "Oh, come sit with us." So she sat at the table, and it was clear that she was uncomfortable. And she, so she eventually, so what ended up happening is the girl who, when she was Fatty Patty, the same one that snatched her donut and said some crazy stuff to her and went and ate her donut, she ends up coming to the table and sitting down. And so, of course, nobody knows who nobody, they're acting like they don't know who she is. So, she saw the girl, and you can see her whole body language and facial expression change. She was basically like, oh, you know, I have to go. So, she got her plate, and she went to a table by herself and sat down. And so, while she was sitting there, a guy walked over and just started a conversation with her. He seemed like a cool guy. They had a little exchange, and then she gets a text. It's from Nonnie. Basically, I think Nonnie told her that she should get a lawyer. So she's like, okay, so she ended up calling Bob, Armstrong. He comes to the school. Her and Nonnie are telling them what's what. And so Bob is now trying to get over to this crime scene to find out whatever you can find out about what happened that night. And so I could be missing some stuff, but whatever. So he's over at the hotel. And he gets there, and of course, Barnard is already there. He's the DA. He's trying to collect evidence for his case. And Bob Armstrong was like, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Well, I represented this guy." And Bob Armstrong was like, "Yeah, I know. I was opposing counsel. I was in the courtroom today." He was like, "Oh, you were?" Shade. But so Bob is taking off his jacket and his tie, and he's about to take his shirt off. And Bob Armstrong's like, "Why do you need to take off your shirt?" He's like, "Because I don't want to get soot on it, especially after your wife took the time to iron it this morning." So Bob Armstrong was like, "What? Excuse me?" He's like, "Oh, she didn't tell you?" And I think he may have eventually explained to him that, "Oh, Eddie is out of town. She offered help, whatever." And so basically, he needs to get into this room to find out what's going on. And so, Bob Armstrong, he said, okay, so he's saying that the way to get to Bob Barnard is to appeal to his ego. So, he basically was like, I'm not familiar with arson cases, and I've always been basically curious how you guys investigate these, and I'd be, what better way to learn it from, an expert who, to let me know, how these things work. And so, of course, Bob Barnard's like, oh, okay, well, sure, you can come in. So they're walking around and seeing, okay, the room is burnt to hell. The smoke detector is all jacked up like it had been damaged. There's blood on the window, on the door seal. I mean, the room's in chaos. And so, Nonnie and Patty ends up going to the convenience store because Patty remembered that she had left the room temporarily to go to the convenience store to get snacks or whatever. And she ends up making out with Choi. Choi was the guy who works at the convenience store. And so they're talking to him and finds out that he was like, yeah, I thought we were going to have sex, but when I made a comment about asking you why you didn't have a bra on, you left. And so, of course, she was like, I didn't have a bra on. And Nonnie was like, oh, you didn't have a bra on? She's picturing Patty naked. And so they left the store. And that's when she realized that, oh, shoot, if I didn't have a bra on, then maybe I left it in the room and it's still in the room as evidence so they could show that I was actually in the room. And so Nonnie was able to get her into the police station, I guess to get into the evidence locker to see if her bra was in there. And so at this point, Bob Armstrong calls her to give her, I guess, an update on what's going on. She tells him that she's doing. And at this point, Barnard walks up and basically, we found a book of matches that has a partial print, so I'm about to go and run this through the system. And he said his goodbyes. Bob Armstrong ends up texting her and telling her, you need to hurry up. So, Coralee, oh, Miss Vagina. Okay, excuse me. So, Coralee, she finds out where Regina is. Keep her Regina. And Regina's getting in her car. Coralee walks up with the photos, and she's like, oh my God, I'm just so sick of my husband's depravity, and I just want to leave him, and da. And of course, Regina was like, oh honey, get in. So Coralee goes on, gets in the passenger seat, and she was like, okay, I just need evidence for my divorce, and do you have these? Are these the only photos? She was like, no, I have them on my phone. And Coralee was like, well, can you send them to me so I can, just as a backup? Oh, sure. And she's just, I want you to take him for everything he's worth. So she sent the photos, and Coralee was like, oh, I got them. Thank you. And so she said, I don't know if she turns to Vagina. I was like, I don't know if you know this, but it's illegal to distribute child pornography. And that's exactly what you just did when you sent me these texts. I love my husband. Fruity behind. No, she said something fruity and all. And basically, she was like, you know what, bitch, back off. And so, of course, vagina. She said, all right, vagina, back off, vagina. That's where I keep saying that because she called it vagina, vagina. And so they had a little exchange, and Coralee got out of the car, and she called her Coralee. And she's like, okay, bye, vagina. And it was so childish, but that shit was funny as hell. And so they part ways. And then, oh my goodness. Patty and Noma ended up going back to the convenience store because they want a copy to get the recording where she went to the store to see the timestamp on it. So they go back to the little convenience store to get the timestamp, the booze and fly, or the fly trap or something, booze and spit. I don't know, can't remember these places. And they realized that Choi, he's not working that night, or he ended up leaving early. And so they asked the guy who was working if they can get a copy of the recording. And so he went to give it to them. I guess small town, whatever. You would say you just hand over copies of surveillance footage of your business to random people. But okay, whatever. So he was going to give it to them, but he realized, oh, the USB drive stick that has it is gone. And so they're like, who else would have it? So they go out into the parking lot, and they see this car that's partially covered, and it's just moving and shaking and just doing a jig, right? This car. So they're like, what is going on over there? So they go pull the cover back. It's Choi in there, jerking off to the daggone surveillance footage, right? So he screamed, they screamed. This whole freaking situation. So they basically said, if you don't give us that recording, we're gonna tell everybody what we just saw. And so he did, and they talked for a while. And they basically said, we need to recreate the conditions of that night. You were drunk that night, and so basically their idea was to get her drunk and to see how long it takes for her to get to the convenience store back to the hotel. So that's what they did. They ended up getting her drunk. And she was on her way. She's supposed to be going back to the hotel. She was too drunk off her ass and falling in the bush, falling down the hill or something. I don't know. They ended up having to take her to the hospital. So I think Bob Armstrong is calling her phone. Nomi answered, and I guess she gave him an update if I remember. And he was like, just whatever you do, don't come to the hospital. And so she was like, So she ended up having to tell him that what happened, and she ended up falling, hurting herself, and she's in this room drunk and half concussed. So we ended up having to bring her in. And so he comes down the hall, goes in the room. It's like, why can't you ever just listen? So he needs to get into this room to talk to the guy. And Naomi's father is in the room. So he basically asked her, can you go in and distract your father so I can talk to this guy? She's like, oh, yeah, fine, sure. So, but she's kind of short with him. So he's like, do you have a problem with me? Like, he's never done anything to her. He doesn't have any clue about how Patty feels about him, but she's threatened, she's jealous because she's in love with Patty. So anybody that Patty's in love with has feelings for her, she just feels some kind of way about. So he's like, do you have an problem with me? And she's just like whatever. No. So they end up going to the room, and as they're walking, they get halfway down the hall. Who's dragging behind her eventually comes out. It's Patty she's in her hospital gown, dragging the IV thing behind her, and they're like, just go back to the room. I don't want you to come here. Basically, I don't want him to see you. And so it was too late because she had gotten to the point where he did see her. He had pulling the finger at her like, that was her. She was in the room with me. Da 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 da. And so of course, Nomi's father's in there, and he's like, Patty, basically you should come. You need to come in. And so now Bob Armstrong is having to think quick, like, what do I got? What do I got to do? So he ends up doing this whole reenactment of what he think happened that night. So he's like, what happened was you woke up covered in liquor, and you got up and you woke up and you didn't, you probably didn't even realize you were covered in liquor, and you tried to it was going to light up a cigarette, but then realized the smoke detector above the bed, so you disabled the smoke detector, and then you lit the cigarette and fell, and then it set the bed on fire, and then you was trying to run to the bathroom, and that's when you ran into the door frame, and that's where the blood came from. And the guy basically said, well, how do you know that? Were you in the closet? But the way he said it was basically like, okay, that's basically the gist of what happened. So Naomi's father basically said, that sounds like a confession to me. Okay, So we're gonna stop there and we're going to zip to Miss Vagina. So Miss Vagina is twerking and tootsie rolling and dropping it low, all on Brick Armstrong. So while this hoe has been all around town, kind of pointing the finger at Bob Armstrong as being Chester the molester, she's over there screwing their son, and apparently been screwing him. So because when they finished, he basically like we just can't do this anymore because me and Magnolia are getting back together, and they had that little exchange. And so they're driving along, and she pulls her top off. He's like, "What the hell are you doing? What if somebody sees you?" And she's basically, "My shirt is inside out." And so he ends up getting distracted and almost running the red light, and he was speeding, so he had to swerve. They got into this accident, and she was like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't be seen here." And so she gets out the car and basically leaves him. But her ass ends up tripping and rolling down the hill, falling in the creek. We don't know what happened with Miss Vagina. If she's somewhere concussed, she knocked out some damn where. But at this point, go back to the hotel, the hospital. Barnard walks into the hospital room. And they're basically like, I mean, it's done. He basically confessed that he set the fire. And so there really is no case. And so Bob Armstrong, I think he got a text or phone call about the accident. So he had to go. They all basically leave. And so Patty and Nomi go back to her room. She has to get dressed and get cleared to leave the hospital. And again, her damn mama is somewhere for 4 days. And whatever. And so anyway, so she's dressed, she's leaving. She walks past the guy's room and just basically she couldn't leave well enough alone. She goes in and basically told him, I'm Fatty Patty. He's like, what? Like, yeah, I'm the girl that you punched and broke my jaw. And, I had to have my jaw wired for 3 months, and you owe me an apology. And he was just asking, I don't owe you an apology. You should be thanking me. You skinny now, and you sexy, and all this, that, and this whole thing. He was just an asshole, just the biggest asshole of all assholes, right? And so she basically got so upset. She was like, you know what, I hate you, and I hope that you die. And so next thing you know, the machine started going crazy, and he ends up having a heart attack, and he's sitting there, laying up there dying. And the people, obviously, they're rushing into the hospital room with the crash cart. And, as she was walking out, she was like, I guess skinny is magic. And so that's basically how the episode ends. Just a whole lot of mess. Yeah, I've been trying to get these reviews to be between like 15 to 16 minutes. But there's so much stuff and so many moving parts and so many people. It's kind of difficult to do that. So I am sorry for the length of these reviews. I will try to work on that. But I'll talk to you guys in the next episode.